My name is Benedicte Clarkson and I participated in rallies in the Moroccan desert, the Rally Aïcha des Gazelles, and then founded my own charity rally, the Rally Marrakech Sahara, for the British Moroccan Society. I first started driving as a driver guide. When I arrived in England, I thought I didn't know much about England, and I thought if I started learning about it and then guiding, but rather than walk, I got a car and took clients, mostly Americans, around not just London but England, and so drove them to various places. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed driving. And then when my husband decided to acquire a couple of Ferraris, one of which was a track Ferrari, I was very enthusiastic about driving his cars. And so when he joined the Fiorano Club, I went with him to Imola and Mugello and started racing around the tracks with him and all these men, mostly men, I must admit, who were all enjoying racing with their Ferraris. It was good fun. The speed was exhilarating. I really enjoyed it. However, it must be said, I was not very good. I was not very good at speed. This is my Ferrari helmet, hence the beautiful red of Ferrari. This is when I was driving those Ferraris. This one is the F355, and this is me also driving the Ferrari. And this lovely red helmet became my helmet for the Rally Aïcha des Gazelles. And my last race, we were number 219. When my friend Jamila, who's Moroccan and was working in Morocco, called me in September 2011 and said, you know what, we must do Rally Aïcha des Gazelles. She had seen the cars arriving on the beach in Essaouira, which is on the west coast of Morocco. And there was 300 gazelles, 300 women, 150 vehicles, 4x4s, buggies, quad bikes, even a truck. And she was like, oh my God, we've got to do this. We've got to do this. And I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll drive, yes, absolutely. I love driving. I mean, I have never driven a four-wheel drive in my life by then, but what I do know is that it's a women-only rally, and I like that bit, and it's not about speed. And that I really like because I remembered that I was not that great with speed. The Rally Aïcha des Gazelles Morocco was created 27 years ago by Dominique Serra, who was given at the time the job of promoting women. And she thought at the time there was one sport where women are not really the main participants, and that's motorsport. So she decided to create a motorsport for women. However, at the time she thought women are not that interested in speed. Now, I don't know if it's valid for every woman. It certainly was valid for me. And that was certainly, an important point for me, that it was not about speed, but about navigation and strategy. And the winning team is a team which does the least amount of kilometers in the desert. So it happened in Morocco. The rally lasts 8 days, always from Wednesday afternoon to the following Thursday. And it covers about 1,500 kilometers. I mean, we go in loops, it's always in loops, so we actually cover more than that at the end of the rally. And there are mechanics, there's about 200 mechanics for the 300 gazelles. However, if you call a mechanic during the day while you're racing, you are penalized. You lose 200 kilometers, which is a huge amount. So as a participant, the last thing you want to do is call a mechanic. You want to get back to camp somehow without the help of a mechanic. So once we decided to do the rally, we had to start looking for a car and training, because, as I said, I have never driven a four-wheel drive in my life, and we certainly know nothing about navigation. The navigation is compulsory, and so it can be either in France or in Casablanca in Morocco. And since Jamila already lives in Casablanca, we decided to do it there. So it's a one day where you learn to use a compass, you learn to put your latitude and longitude points on a black and white map. You learn the map to try to recognize mountains, ravines, sand. It's very unclear, to be honest, this black and white map. I think it's done on purpose. And they're from the 1960s as well, so you don't get the new tracks or anything like that. So we did that, and then we found a car in Marrakesh, a Toyota Land Cruiser, HDJ 80, already prepared for rallies, because its owner does rallies in Morocco already. So that was wonderful. But then I had to train. I had never driven in dunes, so we took it to Mohammed, which is a place full of dunes, and a Frenchman there, Benoit, trained us for 2 days. We trained to navigate and we trained to drive in the dunes. So that was our first training. Jamila and I, in the first rally, decided to alternate driving and navigating because we had both learned both of them. Of these skills. But what I found out is that whenever I was navigating, Jamila would drive and actually look at the map at the same time. So I felt that there was really, she didn't trust me, frankly, to navigate. So we decided really, she would navigate and I would drive. And it happened after the third or fourth day that we decided to do that. We also decided to stop arguing because it was exhausting. And it wasn't personal. We knew it wasn't personal, but when you don't know where you are, when you are a bit lost, these things happen. So the way it happened is you get up at 4 in the morning, having slept in your tent, which is not the most comfortable way to sleep. I was looking after the car, so I was checking the tires, the oil, bringing the car around, making sure it was working, and Jamila would start plotting the points on the map. Putting the first point, the latitude and longitude point, calculating the distance, looking at what the obstacles might be, and you had to find the first points in the day before you could get to the next point. And it was in chronological order. You are not allowed to sort of go to the fourth point and then decide you had enough and go back to camp. Jamila and I finished 83rd out of 120 four-wheel drives, which, we were not last. We were very pleased with that, but we decided never again. We were so exhausted. It had been a very emotionally exhausting rally because it is so hard. So never again, no, absolutely. And then a month later, Jamila called me and she said, "Why don't we do it again?" And I said, "Yeah, all right, yeah, let's do it again." And we did. We got the same car from the same place in Marrakesh, and we trained a little bit more, and we arrived feeling a lot more confident. And of course we knew what to expect, so it started really well. And we were even going faster, although speed is not of the essence. We were still arriving at checkpoints before some other gazelles, some specialists. We were really amazed with ourselves. We were so confident. And on the 7th day we got into the dunes with another car, because really you shouldn't go into the dunes on your own, because that's where you need help. If you get stuck, it's always good to have help. Jamila was navigating magnificently. We could see the flag in the dune. It was the fourth checkpoint of the day, and it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, and we're going west, and the sun, is in my eyes. But never mind. And then an accident happened. I actually drove into the dune. There was a path. I missed it, I was tired, it was the 7th day, I had the sun in my eyes, and I drove into the dune. So the car came to a complete standstill, really dug into the sand. We couldn't dig it out, it was really too deep. But of course we were not going to call the mechanics, because that cost too many points and we're doing so well. So when some other gazelles arrived, gazelles who had done more rallies than us, they said, "Oh, don't worry, we'll pull it on the side, it's all going to be fine." And it wasn't. The car then dropped onto its side. and it got completely flooded with oil. I would not have known there was so much oil in an engine. And so we did have to call the mechanics. And the mechanics cleaned all the parts, all the engine parts, but the car would not start again. So at the end of the 7th day, our race was over. So we were disqualified. And the worst was we couldn't actually bring our car to the finish line in Essaouira. I mean, coming out of the dunes was epic because our car is heavy and the mechanics had to pull us out of the dunes. And we lost the front bumper, we lost parts of the car to just try getting out of these dunes because we were in the middle of them. We could see the flag. We were so close to achieving a wonderful time and a wonderful position. But it didn't happen. So it was very sad. I was feeling really gutted, especially for Jamila, because Jamila had worked so hard. She'd done so well, and really it was a driving error. And Jamila tried to console me too, but I was really gutted. We didn't want to end our rallying career on this failure, on this mishap. So we decided to take part one third time, maybe last time, but at least one third time. Which we did in 2015. Again, it was all going rather well until we reached our first marathon, because what I haven't mentioned yet is that during those 8 days there are 2 marathons in the race where you pack your tent in the morning and you are left to your own devices, you plot your own route to all the checkpoints, and you sleep wherever you end up. That particular night, there is no camp. You don't have to find your way to the camp until the following day. So we were on our first marathon, and I'm not exactly sure why, but even though we had a certain heading, which, let's say, for example's sake, was 140, we kept going 150. We were on the track, because 140, the heading 140, well, there was a mountain, and we just couldn't quite do it. If you go on a 150 heading, you are not going to find your checkpoint. There's no way. I mean, especially, as the kilometers go by. But we were on this track, Jamila and I, and we kept going until it was 7 o'clock in the evening, and it was dark, and we were like, okay, we are lost. And we were all alone. It had never happened before, because we'd always found other gazelles in the past, to put our tents together, and it was always a lovely time, actually, the marathon time. So I put the tent up, but Jamila refused to sleep in the tent. Even though she's Moroccan, she was terrified. So she slept in the car, and the car is not comfortable. There's no back seats in the car. Those rally cars, it's just, and they have special seats. You can't even put them down. So I slept in the tent. I'll admit, we didn't sleep very well. We were absolutely exhausted the following day. Still, we packed our tent by about 6 o'clock and proceeded to find our checkpoint. And then some local on a moped came towards us and told us where the red flag was. And we're like, oh, thank God for that. So we followed him and we did find a flag. However, it was not our flag, because actually with 150 competitors, we are not all looking for the same flag. Our flag was behind a mountain again. And so we suddenly also realized that in a marathon, there is a deadline. Whereas in the normal times, you have plenty of time to find the checkpoints. It was by then 6:30, 7. We had 2 hours to find this flag, which was behind this mountain. So we drove around the mountain, in one way, the other way, to find a track. There was no way you were going over the mountain, this one. And eventually we found one. And it's not about racing, but you won't believe how much I raced. I drove my car like a maniac. It was sandy. I mean, I drove it so fast. So we arrived at this checkpoint at 8:55. It was closing at 9. I mean, the man at the checkpoint was already starting to pack. And then the next one was 2 hours away. We had 2 hours to find the next one. And again, a mad race to find the checkpoint. And we arrived at 10:59. We arrived with a minute to go. I mean, we were, it was amazing. And again, we were the last ones. I mean, everybody had gone through. I mean, we were seriously late by then, Jamila and I. And that was wonderful, but I must admit, after that, we were always late. We were always behind. We were on our own. We found the next checkpoint, and we were so tired. So eventually, we went back to camp without doing finishing the marathon. So we had been 15, so that put us back down to 27th to have done all these kilometers without the checkpoint, without finding all the checkpoints. But bit by bit, with the following days, the next marathon in the dunes, we did really well. No more driving into dunes. We were very careful, we were not rushing, and we clawed our way back to and finished 23rd. Which we were very pleased with it. And also, mostly we finished, which was really our priority. So these are mine and Jamila's trophies. And every year we're given different colored gilets to recognize as gazelle. So first year pink, we were 218. Second year orange. And last year, the blue one, when we were 219. And these gilets are really important because that's how you recognize the gazelles, both in the camps and outside when we're racing. In 2016, I decided to create my own rally. There were 3 reasons for that. One was I had been able to see the magnificence of the Moroccan desert, but really as a gazelle. You look at mountains more as obstacles than objects of beauty. So I wanted to go back and actually really appreciate the beauty of the Moroccan desert. The second reason was I felt that the competition is actually interesting. There's plenty of tour operators, but having a little competition, people actually really I enjoyed it, and I think people do enjoy it. And the third reason was I'm a trustee of the British Moroccan Society, so I wanted to raise money for education in Morocco and the schools we actually support in Morocco. The Rally Marrakesh Sahara takes place in the same place actually as the Rally Aïcha des Gazelles, so between Erfoud and Mohammed on the southeast part of Morocco. But it takes place over 4 days, it's shorter. We stay in hotels most of the time, except for one night where we do camp in the desert so we can admire the magnificent scenery and the stars and the hotel and the sky. So it's mostly off-road, but we stay on tracks. Although sometimes the tracks do disappear, so we also use a compass. The participants are allowed to keep their phones, but as there's very little signal, it doesn't help very much. There is a tracking system on the car, so we don't lose the participants. And they have to find 4 to 5 checkpoints a day. So same thing, they have to find a flag in the desert. The first Rally Marrakesh Sahara went well, even though there were some mishaps. Well, personally, I thought the road book is easy. Having done the old black and white maps of, this looks very easy. I couldn't understand why the participants couldn't easily follow the tracks and the road book. So I decided to turn off my GPS and to do the road book myself, with my driver. And I found it really difficult. I was struggling as well to find the way, so I turned on the GPS back on and went to the flag following the GPS, and also helping competitors find their own ways. So it's not actually as easy as I thought. Mostly also because tracks, I prepare the road book, let's say in March, and we do the rally in May. And in between, there's been wind, there's been rain, and the tracks are not the same anymore. So it makes it for a wonderful rally, but a little more difficult than anticipated. So the participants are supposed to stay on tracks, but one of them decided that it try a shortcut and go off-piste and to get to the flag, and managed to break down his car. So we had to take the car, we had to tow the car to a garage in the middle of nowhere. But there's always, Moroccans are very resourceful, and there was not exactly, he was a welder more than a garage, a mechanic, but he did weld back together some pieces in the car, and the competitors could finish the race. So one of the things I love doing, organizing the Rally Marrakesh Sahara, is preparing the road book. And as you can see, it's basically showing tracks, electric pylons, trees, houses. When it says cross the village, And it's like that, page after page, explaining how to follow all these tracks. There's a lot of tracks in the desert. It seems simple, but actually it isn't. One of my fondest memory of the Rally Marrakesh Sahara was actually when we were caught in a sandstorm. And I mean, we're talking a real sandstorm. And we, as the organizers, thank God we had a GPS, because you could not see the tracks anymore, we couldn't see anything. We managed to find 3 cars out of the 6 cars. So we brought those cars to a little hotel in the middle of nowhere. That night we were supposed to camp, but there was absolutely no way we could have gone to this dune and find the camp. And the wind was blowing. It was amazing. I have never experienced something like that. 2 cars managed to find their way somehow with a local 3 hours later. So we were still short of 1 car. So that took a while to find 1 car. I mean, the guys who were driving that car had drifted off so far. But they made it. We found them. Everybody came back. And that particular year, the owner of this little hotel in the middle of nowhere had actually dug a swimming pool. And he had just filled it, not expecting a sandstorm. So we celebrated one of the participants' 40th birthday in the swimming pool. And the owner of the hotel, who had not expected us at all, put on a magnificent feast. I haven't got regrets. Admittedly, I would have preferred not to drive into the dune in the second rally, but actually the experience of being rescued and pulled out of the dune was amazing as well. No, it's been very enriching, both participating in a rally and creating my own rally for fundraising purposes. I've loved every minute of it, yes, yeah, I'll do it again.